This is Paul Johnson with the Optimistic American. Now, have you ever thought about how it is that you can serve? What groups that you might be able to take part in, or how difficult it is to actually sign up? Today, we're going to have a guest called Shannon Wright, who is with JustServe, and she's going to be talking about the wonderful organization, what they've done to make it very easy for people to actively be engaged in the community. Now, if you listen to this show, you're going to find a lot of different areas that might surprise you. So you can see ways and places that you could be involved with that would be easy and that would enrich your own life. Now, I'm just an ordinary, optimistic American who really still believes that the United States is still a cause for good. If you want to take part, this show gives you a way to do that. So just push that subscribe button. Let's get this thing going. Well, Shannon, first, I'd like to not only thank you for all the service that you have put in through your organization, but I'd also like to thank you for joining us here on the Optimistic American.
My pleasure.
All right, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to start, just give us a brief understanding of JustServe. What is the organization, what do you do, and how does the organization work?
Okay, JustServe is a free online platform that connects volunteers with opportunities to serve around the world. And so it's a fun way to personalize your service. Everybody wants to give back, but we usually don't know how to do it. And so this is a vehicle that connects the two together and allows you to be able to personalize it to your own needs, the station you are in your life, whether you're dealing with kids and wanting to have something powerful to impact their lives, or if you're empty nesters and find yourself with some extra time.
All right, so let's start with the focus of service. And I'm going to give you kind of my read on why service is important. And I'd like to understand your why as well. So one of the things that I saw in being mayor of Phoenix was that we had a constant set of issues that were going on anywhere throughout the valley. But crime was clearly one of the big issues that was taking place back then. Now, on the crime issues, one of the fascinating things that we had was there was some guy who was going around. He would literally light people's garages on fire. And then when they would come out to the fire, he'd rob their homes back in their regular house, knowing that they'd watched the fire for an hour and a half or 2 hours. So the public there, they were outraged. They wanted us to do something. We were trying to find the bad guy. But they wanted to have almost constant control. And they were demanding that their neighborhood be safe, all of which makes sense. But the problem that they couldn't quite get their heads around was that it almost didn't matter how many police officers I hired and put out into their neighborhood. You would never have enough police officers to cover every single neighborhood. More importantly, that people, I always believed that the increase in crime was directly related to the loss of the front porch swing. Now, if you think about that for a moment, people used to sit out on their front porch. They knew the person who lived across the street from them. They knew the people who lived on the house on either side of them. Well, one of the big changes in our society is that we moved away from that front porch and we moved into, at best, the backyard. And instead of having a barbecue with people from across the street, we had a barbecue with our family inside our home or somebody from across town. That loss of a sense of community was dramatic. Because of that loss, it became much more easy to do damage or to steal from people's homes because we don't know who lives across the street. You could add police officers ad infinitum, and you would never make up for that difference.
Agreed.
Now, that's volunteerism, right? So when people volunteer, not just to sit on their front porch, but to take part in a block watch, to take part in a neighborhood organization, as they get to know their neighbors, as they get to know other people, they know who should be across the street and who shouldn't be, what cars should be there and what cars shouldn't be. They also begin to set a community standard. You know, if I tell my kids you shouldn't paint graffiti over on a wall, it's not nearly as effective as if my kids are going to a barbecue with people from across the street and they know, hey, the wall that you're writing on is our neighbor's. It's somebody that you know. We all try to tell our kids, don't write on the walls inside our home. Many of us would be shocked how many of our kids are actually out writing on other people's walls, right? And then, and of course, that becomes not only a graffiti problem, but it's almost a spiral of destruction, because as that begins to happen and other people see the graffiti and they begin to think that there's something wrong with the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden people don't want to live there, don't want to move back into it. The only way to get a handle on that is through volunteerism. And that's not just true with crime. It's true on almost every single thing that we have. So
Yes.
to me, there is no more important thing than volunteerism, because what it's saying is that government cannot fix these problems by itself, not in at least our country. Your thoughts?
We've had too much anonymity, and I think social media has added to that, so that you can say things and be anonymous on that part too. And so we've got a generation that has grown up not feeling connected to their community or even families. And so I see volunteerism as service, especially if you're serving somebody that you don't know, somebody that you don't have to serve. It has a tremendous healing effect. After coming out of COVID, we saw such a spike in service because people need people. And I don't think we realized that as much until after COVID as well, is that we have a need as human beings to be connected. And service is such a good way to do that. It's so easy to focus on all of the bad things. It's so easy to see the graffiti. It's so easy to see the trash and point fingers really fast. But if you're part of the solution and saying, what can we do to make our neighborhood safer? What can we do to make our neighborhood better? And how can we contribute and have the kids put in their input into that and have them have a sense of belonging? It makes a difference.
Yeah, there's just little doubt when you think about service in that way. It not only has an effect on fixing the problem. In this particular case that I was talking about, it's the crime problem, right? But
Yeah.
the idea that you take part in a block watch and all of a sudden you're sitting next to someone and listening to someone and beginning to care about someone who maybe doesn't have all the same ideas that you have. And then all of a sudden, it's easy to put the ideas in perspective.
Yes.
I look at the political discourse in the United States, and we have it seems like everything's identified by either being a Trumper or an anti-Trumper, but nonetheless, people who are on either side of it. The answer is, regardless of whether you like Trump or dislike Trump, you shouldn't dislike the people who are on the other side in the United States.
Right.
That's what we do. But
Yes.
you're so isolated from having to talk to people who don't think like you think, or listen to people who don't think like you think, that the minute you hear it, you're offended.
Right.
You lose perspective, and all of a sudden you can't deal with problems in the same way.
Right.
The only way that we're going to fix these issues is by listening to people that maybe we don't always agree with. And the only way you have to listen is to be engaged enough in a community to recognize that, of course, my neighbors don't all think like I think, but they're still good neighbors. They're here trying to protect our neighborhood.
That's what makes America great. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever lived in such a time as this, Paul, where we've been able to fine tune what we take in to match whatever our perspective is. So you can fine tune all your media to exactly what you want to hear. And that's very damaging. It doesn't open you up. And so if you're at a soup kitchen and you're serving beside somebody that you don't know, that's also just there to help, just there to make a difference. And then you see all of these people that are homeless with families, with children, and you think, yeah, we need to get over the differences. Polarization's not helping. Bringing people together to serve each other does. Makes a difference.
By the way, when I left the mayor's office, I had a terrible disease. They called it mayoриtis, right? So when you go around and it's funny when you're mayor, because like everything you say is brilliant and everybody agrees with you, and then kind of the minute you leave, there are people who are saying, I don't know where you came up with that idea, but you're out of your mind. And
Yes.
it's like, well, it seemed like such a good idea when I was talking about it as mayor. But the point is this, that I actually had to go through a little bit of a curve after I left the mayor's office, because people would confront me and disagree with things that I had thought about, which were only kind of done through isolated means before that. They might put up a post, they might do a letter to the editor. The time the social media was new, they might put up something on a social media posts, but I wasn't actually having to deal with it directly. The one thing that is so clear to me over and over again is that when you get out of practice of doing that, when you get out of practice of dealing with people who don't think like you do, you actually become weaker. The sharpest steel is forged by the hottest fire. And
Yes.
again, the idea I've learned if I'm doing something in the community, instead of deciding that I need to make certain that they hear my point of view, the Maritis disease that I had, is to instead say, oh, so tell me how you see that. Why is it that you see it that way? Well,
Right.
you've had a long life. You've been engaged in different things. What brought you to this conclusion that this was important? And not find anywhere in that conversation that I needed to necessarily disagree unless I was asked for my
Right.
opinion. Because
Yeah.
if they're willing to tell me, then I'm going to learn.
Yes.
If they want my opinion, I'll let them ask for it. But if they
Yes.
don't ask for it, try not to share it, because then all I'm doing is I'm stepping on their ability to talk about what's important to them. But again, what volunteerism does is it brings that back. Now, talk about the different types of things that people can actually volunteer on. So if they went onto your site today, and by the way, I hear people say this a lot. I don't have any idea what I
What?
want to do. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my meaning is. I don't know what to volunteer on. Let's start by talking about the types of things that people can volunteer on.
Absolutely. So I like to tell people to start where they feel comfortable, and also look at where you're at, and maybe your life experiences too. I'm at a point where I can say, okay, I've got this kind of experience. Maybe I want to impact my grandkids. Maybe that's going to be my focus. Maybe I want to do something with animals because my kids love animals. Maybe it'll be going to the Humane Society and petting kittens once a week. I don't have a lot of time to be able to give to it, but I can do that. And so fine tuning the service to meet your needs, and also what what's important in your life. And so I love being able to help out the Humane Society. I love being connected to my community. And that's another positive thing about JustServe, is that you can fine tune it to 5 miles around your home, or give it a parameter, and do 5 miles or 15 miles or 25 miles if you want to reach out farther. Or you can do something national, like National Day of Service that we're headed into right now. We have 400 projects listed right now within a 25-mile radius of my home here in North Salt Lake. And so that opens up everything. You can do everything from cleaning the park trails to taking a letter to a senior citizen and just telling them how much you appreciate their life's work. And so it's all open. It just depends on what your needs are, what you feel comfortable with. But then the next thing is take somebody with you. Take somebody that you're concerned about. Take a spouse, take a neighbor, take the little old lady that doesn't get out of her house, that would love to be able to have an option to serve. And maybe she can't go out, and so bring something to her. We have remote projects so that you can join people around the United States that are doing care packages to send overseas. We did baby hats for children in Afghanistan. Meaningful projects that will actually get to the end of the row. There's so much that you hear about and see about that doesn't actually make it to the recipients. And so that's what I like to.
But what's going to happen, like if I go online and I
Uh-huh.
sign up and I say, I really love the mountain preserves, I love the outdoors, I want to work on the trail system. What's going to happen? I'm going to push a button on your site. I'm going to leave my name and my email address and those types of things. Who contacts me then?
You contact them. And that's what I
Okay.
love too. So you're not going to get emails from every national park within 25 miles. You're in Mesa. Where are you at? In Phoenix?
I'm in Phoenix. Yes.
Phoenix. And so you've got a lot of different resources there. It's interesting how things every state's different. Utah has the highest volunteerism in the United States. We're number one in volunteerism, and that comes from the governor's board, not just from JustServe. And so in Arizona, you're going to have different needs, but different things. But you are the one that reaches out. And so you'll say, okay, I want to do something with national parks. You can type that into your search engine and it'll say, okay, here's 45 different projects that we have going on right now that have to do with national parks. Do any of these fit your parameters? And you may say, oh, I'm not free this weekend. I'm really busy this month. Maybe later on, maybe I want to do something as part of a family reunion. You can tailor it to that. You can actually go and contact the nonprofit and say, okay, this is my idea. Would this fit in within your parameters? Is this something that, and you can make up your own project.
And with that, when you think about age groups, what are the age groups of people that generally sign up or can sign up?
We're having tremendous success with the youth. And so we have got JustServe clubs now in the high schools. And I love working with those kids because it doesn't matter if it's a car wash or if they're doing pantry packs for elementary kids, or we have what they call teen centers here. So in my county here in Davis County, we have 13,000 homeless kids. Now, these are kids that they're saying mom and dad are not being responsible parents. These kids are either couch surfing or living out of a car. And so we have hygiene kits that these kids have done. My high school kids came up with their own project and said, hey, let's do T-shirts and tennies. Let's do hoodies and jeans. We want to give back to our kids something that they will actually wear to high school. Yeah. And so they came up with their own projects and posted those. So I love working with kids. I love taking my grandkids. I have 7 grandkids. They range in age from 18 to 10. I love being able to include them in my service so that they can see that service doesn't have to be something that mom and dad require you to do to get an allowance. Service can be tailored to something that you enjoy doing. And so my kids have been great about taking flags to the cemetery, putting flags around on the graves. There's so many different things that you can involve them in, and I love that. I love being able to serve with other people because it gives you a connection and there's a friendship there. You're right. Our neighborhoods are not connected. We don't know each other. We go to work, we come home, we're isolated. COVID didn't help with that at all. It gave more isolation and people feeling more fear of different things. I've met so many of my neighbors through service, of being able to go. We have a community pantry that's 2 blocks away. It's supported by the Ladies of Charity, which I just love because that includes the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Catholic Church, the Episcopal Church, and anybody else that wants to volunteer. And we can just go there and help out. And it's this little tiny pantry, but they service over, 50 people, 50 families a week. Their demands have been increased substantially, and it's hard on them, and they're suffering and not having enough food to put on the shelves. So that's one of the things that we're doing again for 9/11 is doing food drives. And so there are a lot of people that have needs even within our own communities. You don't have to leave your neighborhood to find somebody that needs something.
All right. So I'm going to, again, start with young people. I think that's interesting. There are benefits. And I've always been a believer. There's no negative to gaining a benefit out of service. So if your benefit is, hey, you now have something for your resume. You now have something to put on your college admission exams. Right. That you went out and did work. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. If you're utilizing that process as a means to talk about what you've done and to get a better education, God bless you. That's a good thing to have happen. On the other hand, oftentimes it can also be as much a help for the person serving as the person being served. You know, it's not hard to see that entitlement has become an issue with many kids, and I don't want to bag on them because I think every generation has its problem. My dad once told me, I remember we were talking about my kids when they were young, and I said, "Gosh, they just seem so entitled." He said, "Look, when you spend your whole life working real hard to make certain that your kids don't know the hardships that you went through," he said, "Don't be surprised when they don't know the hardships that you went through." Right?
Done a good job.
It's part of how it works.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean that you can't introduce them to other people who are having those hardships. And seeing those hardships firsthand actually makes their life richer.
Absolutely. We've seen so many benefits for the kids, especially. And one of them is we have a lot of kids that are dealing with depression. Depression is across the board, but there are a lot of kids that are dealing with that. One of the best antidotes to depression is service, just giving back. And again, I will tell the kids, tell me what you're interested in. Oh, I want to be a veterinarian. Oh, I want to be a teacher. There's nothing better than taking a youth that thinks that they want to go into education and get them into the classroom to help read to kids. And then they find out, this is my love. I love being able to give back. Or they find out, I don't like kids. How much better to find that out when you're in high school than it is after 4 years of college and the depth that you put into that? Because I have seen that too. I've seen teachers come out of special ed, and especially in their student teaching, going, I really don't like this. I can't take this. And that's not the time to find a career choice after you've spent that much time.
That's hard for people sometimes. I recall having people that served on a homeless committee that came back to me and talked to me. And when I was done listening to them, they you know, it didn't matter what answer I gave these people. They would tell me, oh, you can't do that, and here's why. Oh, you can't do that, and here's why. And I finally asked them, why are you on this group? And one of them said, well, I'm on this group because it looks good on my resume. I go, why don't you find something that you like that looks good on your resume? There's lots of areas to volunteer. Now, there are people who love being engaged with the homeless. That's the right people to work on the homeless issue. There are other people who love working with children who are handicapped or seniors or in cleaning up a park. There's lots of different places. And what I'm impressed about with your organization, what caught my attention to it, I recall in the 1990s, during the period of time that I was mayor, we had a bad economic downturn. You may or may not remember, but there was a savings and loan crash, and the market went bad, and all of a sudden, Phoenix was way short of revenue. We had to lay off a couple thousand employees to be able to keep our budget afloat, which was not easy by itself. But one of the areas where we had a shortfall was in the police department, and it was just researching the paperwork to find criminals. Now, we ended up saying, okay, let's see if we can get volunteers for that. We ended up with more volunteers that were seniors than we could possibly manage.
Absolutely.
It was stunning to us how many people said, hey, yeah, I'd like to help on that. And they got engaged. Now, the PD, I believe they still have it today, but I know they kept it for a long period of time after that because they were so effective at people coming in and wanting to work on it. So for seniors, what types of activities would you think you would find for seniors who wanted to be engaged in volunteerism?
I love that because that's me. And so that's why I became involved in it. I first found out about JustServe when I was working. So I was working for the Utah Jazz. And if you're on any NBA team, you negotiate that you'll give 12 hours of service back to the community where you play. So my job was to facilitate that service and make sure that it was a safe project, but also that the player came away also impacted as well as the people he was serving. And so that's when I first got involved with JustServe, and that's what I loved about it. But then when I retired, it's like, I have so much experience. Why can't I still be able to put this to use, but on my time frame, on when I can afford the time and when I feel empowered and I want to identify with a certain thing. And so I love going to the senior center. We have people that will volunteer their time to teach art classes that have been in the classroom for 30 years and now just give back just for the love of art. And there are others that will do the same thing for aerobic dance or square dancing. There are others that will just put the flowers on the tables. And so anything to do, they love giving back, but also they will help with communication skills. We have a lot of refugees here. There are a lot of people that are coming in where English is not their first language. And you have such a wide resource of people who have been in the workplace, who know how to navigate life skills, where to find the post office, how to set up a bank account, how to drive a car. Volunteers, senior volunteers are perfect at all of those things. And it gives them a sense of still feeling used. There is nothing worse than retiring and feel like your life is over. And at 65, that doesn't happen. We are living longer and can be so much more productive. It has shown so much more evidence of being able to use your mental capacities and keeping them longer if you're involved. If you're involved teaching something that you have developed as a skill, whether that's crocheting or if that's painting or refinishing furniture or helping a child read, learning how to read, those are life skills.
All right, so I'm gonna list some things. I'm just gonna see how well you do at this test.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to list an area, and you tell me whether or not you believe there are areas that people can volunteer in that area. You've
Okay.
already mentioned some of these, but I'm going to go through them anyway.
Okay.
Volunteer helping children.
Yes, tons of those. Whether it's in the school system or whether it's like in a neighborhood type of thing where you want to have some kind of play group involved with the mothers so that they get to know each other, so that they can support each other. We have a lot of homeschoolers here that like to get together and be able to support each other. And then they will contact people, seniors, to come in and teach some of the life skills. My husband loves teaching people whittling. And so he will go into these homeschool classrooms and be able to teach the kids how to whittle. Something
All right.
wonderful to do with their hands.
How about handicapped children?
And it's love special ed. I love special ed. You've touched on my heart. But they are such a group that needs to be needed, and there's such a shortage. You can volunteer in any classroom for special ed and just be there to help those kids navigate some of the skills, just to help out on the playground. Those that volunteer. I just came from a special ed classroom, and the kids have such a wide range, but the teachers are so busy doing paperwork that they sometimes can't help the one-on-one with simple things like being able to eat. It's so rewarding to be able to watch a child who's gone from a feeding tube to learn how to swallow. And you don't realize how lucky you are to have children that can do that naturally and normally until you work with special needs kids where they struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell your voice is getting choked up just talking about it. That's beautiful.
Sorry.
Homeless.
Homeless, that's a national, there's probably no city in America where it's not dealing with some kind of homeless situation, and how to impact it in a positive way, and be able to enable without enabling, to empower without enabling. And so I love being able to work with homeless youth. I love working with women and children who find themselves homeless. And so there's different categories that you can fit into, and wherever your desire is. Homeless men, there are such a need there. And you can do anything from gathering socks in a community to be able to put together what they call an escape bag. So if you have a woman who's in a battered situation and has 15 minutes to gather up everything that she has to get to a safe shelter, they have bags, then you can make those. And so that she has a getaway bag that she can get to safety.
First responders.
First responders, I love. 9/11 is full of first responders. And we've got some wonderful activities going on right now where communities are honoring these people instead of all of the negative things that you hear about the police and all that has to go through their minds every day when they put on that uniform. To be in a situation where they get a love note from an 8-year-old daughter, little girl, who says, "Thank you for saving my cat," for being able to see the flags fly around our nation, to see people reaching out and identifying first responders and saying thank you with a handshake, instead of feeling like they're not doing anything important. Every first responder should feel like they're contributing to our nation because they make us strong.
Military.
Military. I have a son in the military, and so you've got another sweet spot for me. So again, you've got a wide range of those who are serving overseas, those who are serving here. There are needs for them to feel connected. There are things that they don't have from home that they would love to have. A note and chapstick sent abroad makes all the difference in the world. Just feeling like somebody realizes what they're doing is important and that their sacrifice is not unnoticed.
Teachers and education.
Love that. Again, there's another group that gives so much more than an 8-hour day to their profession and makes a difference in children and teens' lives for the rest of their lives. Often they're unfunded and unappreciated, and the most powerful expressions of service are usually from their students. And so in our JustServe clubs, we have kids during their lunch hour that will take time to write notes anonymously to leave on teachers' doors as a thank you.
How about juveniles that have gotten into trouble?
The wonderful way for them to give back and turn around. We need programs where people can change. And a lot of them, it comes from generational neglect. And so if you give them options and show them that there's a better way, just like the teens being able to serve dinner to homeless teens helps them realize, my life is really not that bad. I have a bed to go to tonight. The same is true for the kids who get in trouble, to be able to help out and say, there's a better way. To be able to help out, even cleaning up trash and making an area look beautiful, gives them a sense of pride that some of them have never had.
Oh, you just hit my next one, neighborhood cleanups and environmental cleanups. You've already mentioned some.
Tons of things like that at every neighborhood. Again, funding is a problem on a city level and also in a state level. And so if we can assist that with volunteers who love being outside, and there again is something so powerful and healing about being outside and then making a difference. Hard work is important. And I think that's something we've sheltered a generation from.
You've already mentioned seniors, so let's go to animals.
Animals I love. Animals is probably the easiest one to get people excited about. I've never had a group of young people that I've talked to that haven't been excited about going to walk dogs. Walk dogs. That's all they have to do is show up one day a week and walk dogs. And they love it. They love it. My grandkids would love to have a dog and they're allergic. And so I can take them to the Humane Society. They can love 100 different animals. I bring them home and shower them all and take them home. And they're happy as can be because they've loved them.
All right. So Viktor Frankl is one of my favorites. And Viktor Frankl, he wrote a very famous book after going to Auschwitz. In this book, he talked about the importance of finding purpose. In fact, one of the things that he argued was that we put way too much emphasis on happiness in the United States and not enough on meaning and purpose. He said that you find meaning and purpose in one of basically 4 ways. The first one is in who or what you love. And the what you love might be you love animals, or you love a sunset, or you love the outdoors. It might be I love children, or I love seniors, or I love my family. Right, but love is the first one. The
Right.
second one, he said, is what you create. The idea that if you go out and you create a business, or you create music, or you create art, all that becomes part of your sense of meaning and purpose. The third one is who and what you serve, how you serve other people. Now, in Auschwitz, he served the other prisoners by trying to keep them alive psychologically, by
Yes.
convincing them that it was their outlook that mattered. And then the last one that he mentioned, and I always found this to be interesting, was that you actually find it through through struggle. When you're confronted with huge negativity, something goes wrong, everything feels like it's collapsing, your ability to get through that starts to give you this sense of meaning and purpose. You begin to recognize how hard life can be and how important it is to enjoy it when it's okay. But the point is that, to me, everything that you're doing, every one of those programs that you're talking about, it's not designed to just give people purpose, but help them find purpose. I may go get involved with helping out with handicapped children and go, this breaks my heart too much. I can't do it. And so I go work on a different type of program. It doesn't matter. As I go through that search in my life and seeing the challenges that other people face, and then work on trying to help solve those problems myself, it gives me a sense of purpose. I'm an entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurship. But what I love about entrepreneurship is the idea of creating a product for someone else, creating something that improves someone else's life. Not everyone likes entrepreneurship because it comes with all other kinds of struggles, from staying up late at night, worry about how you're going to make your payroll, to the struggles of figuring out your next sale, right?
Right.
But you don't need it to find meaning and purpose. That's a mistake to believe that that's the only place where you can find it. You can find it on your website. It's right there. You can look through the list of items, and if you're not sure, you can go try something. And if you don't like that, you can go try something else.
Yes.
So if they want to get through to your website, we'll put up the website here, but talk again about how do you do that? How do you actually get engaged? What's the first step for someone who's not sure about what it is that they want to do?
Okay, first you're just going to go on to JustServe.org. You click on that, and you're going to leave your email address. You're not going to be contacted by all of these different groups. Your information is not going to be sold. It's not trafficked in any way. It's just a way for them to send back a link to verify that that's you. Now, there's lists of things that you might indicate what you're interested in. It'll say, I'm interested in animals or agriculture or history or teaching or all of these things. You don't have to fill that out. Just put in your email address, and that gets you started. And then you go to wherever you're living, type in your zip code on JustServe.org and look at what's out there. Just look at the different things, and it'll be something that will spark your interest. You'll be saying, oh, that sounds interesting, and just keep a list of those. Then look at your calendar and make a commitment to serve. Just serve one thing this month, if you can do that. One thing, and you'll get hooked. So don't try to sign up. When I first got involved, I wanted to sign up on everything, and it can just overwhelm you because you're going 90 miles an hour.
Although I know some people who are using your service, and literally they are using it on a regular basis. They're doing 3 or 4 things a month, and then they're changing it every couple of months, just keeping their life active.
Yes. For people, for service, for seniors, it's so important to keep engaged.
They're providing a service. They're improving their life. They're meeting people. They're beginning to build out their own networks. Their life has been improved. It's become, they're happier. You can see it when people do it. Now, let's say that I'm a politician or a teacher or a first responder, and I have a program that I'd like people to actively be engaged. How do I engage with you?
Okay, we have organizations. So you have to be a nonprofit, which technically just means a 503C.
501c3, right?
501c3, thank you. Which means that you fit into a certain tax bracket. And so if you filled out that paperwork and everything, then that qualifies you. Most of those organizations have a web page, and so that's posted. You can post that on JustServe. Anybody can post a project. The parameters are listed on the very first page. You can't ask for money. You can't proselyte. You can't, we welcome all religions and all different groups, but you can't push your agenda with JustServe. It has to be something that makes the community better. It's something that will benefit the community is our primary goal. And so you can read through those on the first page, and then it'll take you through step by step on how to post a project. And so you can say, okay, we've got something. I like to give people at least a couple months notice. If you have something going on this weekend, it's not a good time to start putting it on JustServe on Wednesday. We may not volunteer until Friday night, but you need to get people so that they understand that this is something that they can put on their calendar. We are planners, we're organizers. And so give yourself a little bit of lead time. But all of that is just step by step. It's very user friendly. You don't have to have credentials to be able to post anything. And if you need anybody to help, all of us are volunteers. And so JustServe has specialists all over.
All right, so let's talk just a little bit about the faith community, because I find this to be interesting. So During the time I was mayor, I was a big supporter. There was a guy named Joe Lieberman who later ran for president. He was a big sponsor of interfaith programs. He was Jewish, but he had a strong belief in the interfaith programs playing a significant role. So we began to implement interfaith programs, and I went out and I spoke to the Jewish community and the ecumenical community and others about the importance of them playing a role. Now, here's what I saw. I've been all around the world. I've seen some of the worst poverty anywhere in the world. There's lots of need all over the world. I don't want to take away from any of that. Certainly, missions are important for people if that's what they want to do. But if you're looking for problems, there's all you can find within 3 miles of your back door. All right,
Service,
it's everywhere.
service is neighborhood. Yes.
That's right. All right, you can service a senior 3 blocks away from you and
Absolutely.
make a significant difference in your life.
Yes.
The importance of the ecumenical community playing a role is that, like we talked at that time, we created softball leagues for young people. And one of the concerns that they had was, well, gosh, our job is to try to preach. I said, well, it's a little bit of a problem because we do get some state money. So you can't preach while you're there. You can't make it. You can only take part in this if they believe in your denomination. But, you can go play baseball with them and you can build a relationship with them and you go out to pizza and you can talk about anything you want to talk about when you get done having the pizza. But if you don't actively engage with the community, don't be surprised if the community continues to move further and further away from
Right.
faith.
Yes.
Right? There has to be an active engagement. Your group has done so much with that. Can you talk about that for a moment? Because I think it's an important part and it's not anything that I want to shy away from.
Oh, I appreciate that. I love working with our interfaith group. And just like in a community, how it's important to talk to other people, we are so insular in our relationships. It's easy just to stay with people that feel the same and believe the same as you do. There's a safety factor in that, but it's not healthy. And so I love working with our interfaith communities, and I think it makes communities and cities and nations stronger if we can work together.
What does it do for your church? Does it help your church to actively be engaged?
Anytime that you can bless people's lives, that blesses everyone. I don't see it just as the Church of Jesus Christ is benefiting from this. I see communities becoming stronger. I see families healing because they've crossed the bridges and are serving each other. And so I see everybody benefiting from service. It blesses the Church of Jesus Christ just as much as it blesses the Catholic Church. It blesses the Baptist brother next door, as well as the Seventh-day Adventists, as well as our Jewish brothers and sisters. We need commonality. We don't need to exploit our differences. Differences are easy to find. It's better to find the commonalities that we share. We share a concern for children. We can share a concern about involving seniors. We share concerns about safety in neighborhoods. Those are things that it doesn't matter your religion.
Yeah. And so, I'm going to add one more to the list and I'd love your comment on it. We've seen throughout American history discrimination in lots of different forms. Now, I believe we were not born a perfect union. We were just trying to be a more perfect union.
Right.
We were trying to improve upon what we left. And I think that's a constant process. There's an ideal that we're working towards, but we'll never quite get there. We have to constantly work at it. One of the things, though, that has been discriminated against in our past, certainly the Jewish community was discriminated against. Catholics were discriminated against. Mormons were discriminated against. So what did that discrimination come from? Fear? A fear that maybe they had a set of ideals or that they were honoring something that shouldn't be honored and that they were somehow or another going to corrupt our children, whoever the us is at that time, right?
Yes.
But what happens is that the more people know about Mormons or Catholics or Jews, the more they recognize, hey, these are just other human beings.
They're people.
And we're all on our journey, right? And so what I think it does for the religion is first it opens it up and it gets rid of that fear that people have over who they are. Once you get rid of the fear, to me, it also begins to change the way that people see the faith-based community. One of my fears with the faith-based community is that we have a community that is moving away from any engagement with God. And, I really believe, I love my country. I love those words that said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they're endowed upon by their creator. Now, that creator was important, because if there was no creator, guess what? Those rights are just guaranteed by man. They're not guaranteed by anyone else.
No.
The idea that there are universal truths is something that's existed from our country's beginning. That separation is partly happening because even though maybe we got rid of some of those biases and fears, and the different religious groups began to work together, there's now a separation between them and younger people who are moving away from it. My argument to the faith-based community is our kids, our young people have never needed you more.
Absolutely.
Never more than right now.
Yes.
I'd love your thought on that, maybe as a closing thought.
Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's something that connects us. That's something that doesn't matter where you choose to worship or who you choose to worship. We all are connected together as human beings endowed by a great creator who loves us and wants us just to be kind to each other. And the best way to learn kindness is by serving. Serve your neighbor, serve your family, serve those that you don't know, because once you get to know them, they will become your friends. Oh, this is fun, Paul.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
No, thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the Optimistic American. We'll try to make certain that we get this out, and we will make certain, I'm telling my tech guy right now, put that website in here about 5 or 6 times throughout the program so people know that it's there. This is a great program, and anything that we can do to help, we want to.
Thank you so much for sharing this. It's been fun to be part of something so organic, but your conversation was easy and pleasant. So thank you, Paul.
All right. Thanks again.
Have a good night.
Thanks for joining the Optimistic American Show. Now help us grow by subscribing to our channel. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like and a comment. There is so much more that we have planned. We can't wait for you to embark upon this journey with us.